All right there. Well, this is Dr. Siobhan Parat here, founder of Relatable, and I am really excited to come on and talk with you about what it takes to have a happy marriage, like what it really takes. I speak with so many women who are struggling, like who are really going through things in their marriages right now, where on the one hand, they really want things to work out. They're trying what they know to do, and they're not seeing the progress they want. And then that causes them to sort of doubt if what they're doing is even worth it, if they should make an effort, if they should even keep trying to work on their marriage. So, it makes me think about this question, like, what does it really take? And it's something that as I talk with people, I can really easily tell the people who honestly maybe don't have what it takes. Their mindset isn't in the right place to actually create a happy marriage. And so I wanted to come on and share what I believe are sort of some of the 5 most important elements, the most important things to be thinking about in order to actually have a happy marriage. And so as I share these 5 things, what I want you to do is to just sort of take your own personal assessment of where you stand on these things and ask yourself this question: do I have what it takes? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the 5. I'm just going to lay them out right now, and then I'm going to go through each one in depth and break them down a little bit more so you truly understand what I'm talking about. Okay? So let me pull up my notes because I don't want to forget anything. So the first thing is fight your feelings. To have a happy marriage, you have to fight your feelings, and I'm going to describe what that means. The second thing is you have to refuse to be selfish. Being selfish, no place in a marriage. Number 3, have no plan B. I'm going to talk about exactly what that means. Number 4 is to stop looking at him. Stop looking at your husband. I'll tell you all about why that's so important to having a happy marriage. And then number 5 is to focus on solutions. We spend way too much time looking at the problem and not thinking about solutions. So let's get into each one of these. Fight your feelings. So what do I mean by that? And why is that important to having a happy marriage? And the reason is our feelings are so random. Like, let's just be honest. We're women, depending on the time of day, the time of the month, we can feel 100 different ways about the same exact situation. And the reason is our feelings fluctuate. One day you could be totally in love with your husband. The next day you could be like headed out the door, right? And so if you're aware of that, if you're aware of how much your feelings fluctuate, you then understand that you can't rely on your feelings to make major decisions and to influence how you act, right? You have to now be in control of your emotions. And the reasons our feelings are so random is because our thoughts are random, and our thoughts actually drive our feelings. And if you can manage the conversation that's going on in your head a little bit differently, you're going to feel differently. And so let me just give you a really, really clear example of that. So I actually spoke to your husband before doing this live stream. And I spoke to him and I just asked him about your marriage. And he said, he told me, he's like, listen, Dr. Siobhan, I love my wife. I love her more than anything in the world. And she is the most important person to me. I want her to be happy. I'm trying my best. But, I keep falling short. And I feel bad about that. And I don't know what to do. But I love that woman with all my heart. And I am willing to do whatever it takes to work this thing out. That's what he said. How do you feel? How do you feel hearing that and knowing that that's how your husband feels? I'm sure you're feeling assured, reassured, a little confident, maybe hopeful, right? You're feeling a certain way in response to what I just said, right? Now, to be perfectly honest, later on in the conversation, he was like, it was almost like a switch flipped, but he was like, at the same time, she is so moody and she is so critical of me. There's so many days that I just don't want to be around her, where I keep telling her, she's got to change her ways, and she's looking and pointing the finger at me. And quite honestly, some days I'm ready to walk out the door. and we argue all the time. She's always nitpicking over everything I do. We're not connecting, we're not being intimate, and she's just not a cool person to be around, right? And so if I tell you that that was part of our conversation, how are you feeling now? You may be feeling defensive, you may be feeling upset and frustrated and thinking about all the things that he's doing wrong. Now, what I want you to know is that none of that is true, right? I don't know your husband. I didn't speak to your husband. But by planting those thoughts in your head, you responded to that. Like you had an emotional reaction to thinking about the scenario I laid out for you. And so what we fail to realize so much of the time is that we are planting seeds in our head every single day by the way we perceive situations. And we tell ourselves these stories that either make us feel good or make us feel bad. And so you have the choice to drive your emotions by the thoughts you think. So you have to think on those things that are going to lead you to feeling good about your marriage. And doing that is all a part of fighting the feeling, because you're going to want to think negatively. You're going to want to interpret things in the worst way possible. You're not going to want to give your husband the benefit of the doubt. And you have to fight that. You have to set your mind in the direction that you want to go if you want a happy marriage. So just assess for yourself, are you willing to fight your feelings by, directing your thoughts so that you can feel better about your husband and the relationship you have with him? That's for you to decide. So that, again, is step number one, or element number one of what it takes to really have a happy marriage, is you have to fight your feelings because they're random, but you can direct them with your thoughts. Number two, refuse to be selfish. Now this sort of goes without saying, right? You know already that being selfish is just no good. It's no good in any relationship, and for sure it's no good in your marriage. Yet it happens every single day, right? It's natural. We are ego-driven beings where it's all about what are we getting? It's all about what about me? It's all about what I'm not getting, right? And so that focus on yourself is what's creating the discord, distance, dissatisfaction in your relationship. And you really have to get to a place where you refuse to be selfish, where it's completely and totally unacceptable to you. That when you and your husband united, you became one. It's not a me against him, it's an us for us. And the sooner you can get to that mindset, the happier you'll be in your marriage. So again, you have to ask yourself this question: do I have what it takes to have a happy marriage? Am I willing to refuse to be selfish under all circumstances? Even when it sort of creeps up on you, will you shut it down by looking outside of yourself to what's going to benefit your relationship, what's going to benefit your family, what's going to benefit your marriage? Because it's not about you, right? It's about the life you're creating for your family and the legacy you will leave behind. So you've got to refuse to be selfish. The next one is you have to have no plan B, which doesn't mean that only about divorce, right? So you think no plan B meaning like, yeah, I'm not getting divorced, but I wanted to introduce this other option that many people actually take when it comes to their marriage. And that option is to just be unhappy, to stay together, to live in the same house, to coexist, to be roommates, and to be unhappy. And so that is a plan B, right? It may not be divorce, but it's still a plan B. And so what it takes to have a happy marriage is that you don't have a plan B, that there's no other option for you but to be happy, that it's urgent, that the minute you're not feeling happy, the minute there's something going wrong in the relationship, you correct that thing, that there is no period of time where it's okay for you to stew and sit and remain unhappy. Plan B is not an option. And so, again, ask yourself, have I sort of become complacent where I'm okay in this state of not being happy? And if you are, you're going to stay there, right? Because it gets comfortable and it gets familiar and you don't even know what to do to get out of that state anymore. And so having a plan B is the surest way to get to that plan B, right? But if it's not even an option, if it's not even up for consideration or debate, or it's not even a thought in your mind, then you're going to do everything it takes to be happy. And so again, ask yourself, do I have a plan B, right? And if you do, how can you eliminate it? How can you focus and shift your thinking to my only option is to have a happy marriage? Number 4, stop looking at him, right? What it takes to have a happy marriage. You have to stop looking at him. You have to stop blaming him for all the problems, and you have to stop looking at him to be your source of happiness. And so this is about you. Your happiness is an inside job. It's not something that he can bring you. It's not something that outside circumstances can create for you. Your happiness comes from your perception of things. Your happiness comes from your reaction to things. And so many times as women, we are not confident in ourselves. We lack self-esteem. We lack self-love. And we look for our husbands to fill that for us rather than looking for the ways that we can fill it for ourselves. And let me just tell you, that's a void that no matter what he does, he could tell you he loves you every single day. He could do everything in his power to make you happy, quote unquote, make you happy. But if you're not happy within yourself, if when you look in the mirror, you don't absolutely love the person that you are, he is never going to fill that void for you. And so you have to stop looking to him to be that source of happiness. His job is not to meet your needs, right? His job is not to meet your needs. And if you had looked and refused to be selfish, you wouldn't be looking for him to meet your needs. You'd be looking for how you can fill your own self up and then how you can meet his needs from your overflow. And so that's what it takes to have a happy marriage. Do you have it? Are you willing to develop those skills? Are you willing to develop that mindset to get there, right? And then the last one that I want to share is you have to focus on solutions, right? If you're in a rough place in your marriage, it is so easy to focus on all that is going wrong, to think about the problem from every angle, every day, right? To have conversation after conversation about all that's going wrong and, what is not going the way that you would like. It's so easy to get stuck there. But you have to be diligent to look for solutions, to find the solutions, to not sit there and ask yourself, why is this happening to me? What happened? Instead, ask yourself the question, what can I do today to move me closer to where I want to be in this relationship? What habit can we develop? What conversation can we have to move us forward? What skill can I develop? What way can I serve my husband more rather than criticizing him? Right? So those are the things that it takes to have a happy marriage. That's what's required. And I'll just briefly summarize them. Fight your feelings. Your feelings are temporary and will have you foolish, right? Number 2, refuse to be selfish. This is not about you. Marriage is not about what you receive. Marriage is serving, being a helpmate. Number 3, have no plan B, where being happy is the only option, that you will not become complacent and comfortable in a place of unhappiness. Number 4, take your eye off your husband. Stop blaming him. Stop looking for him to fill the void that only you can fill. And number 5, focus on solutions. Don't sit there stewing in the problem. You have to identify what's one thing you could do to make it better, right? And so that's what I have for you. Again, so many times women get caught up in these areas that they just can't break through. And it all starts with your mindset, right? It all starts with your mindset. And so many of you are listening and you're like, man, that's right. Like she actually really hit the nail on the head. I've been thinking about this for so long and now it all makes so much sense, right? You got to get your mind game right. And that takes practice. It takes consistency and it takes having the actual right tools to do that. It's not something you can just will yourself to do because the truth of the matter is you've had your whole life thinking a certain way. You've had your whole life being a certain way. And what I'm asking you to do, what it takes to have a happy marriage, requires that you are a different person, right? Because the way things are going between you and your husband is the interaction between the two of you. So if one partner in that equation changes, the whole situation changes because he's responding to you and you're responding to him. And so if you are different, if you respond differently, he's going to have no other choice than to respond differently as well. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I could really use some help in this, like it makes sense, that is exactly what I should be doing, then I would love, love, love to have the opportunity to speak with you. I would love to have the opportunity to share with you the work that I do and how I work with women to develop the mindset and skills to create a happy and loving marriage without having to make over the husband. It's possible. It's absolutely possible for you, but it really starts with having the right mindset. And so I invite you to reach out to me. You can send me a private message right here on Facebook. You can also check out my website at berelatable.com/coach me. That's where I share all the information about how I can help you get your mind right so that you can really have what it takes and apply the principles to have a happy marriage. I am so glad that you found this video. I hope that it has been eye-opening and insightful for you, and I hope more than anything you will actually apply these things to your marriage. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll be back with you sometime really soon.